I spent 4 days clearing out everything Julian Sterling had thrown at me over the past 14 years. Jewelry, bags, cars, and even that downtown apartment he tossed my way when he was in a good mood. The agent moved quickly, discounted the market price, and cash rapidly flowed into a new anonymous account I had opened. The moment the money arrived, I was zipping up the last suitcase. He came back earlier than usual, carrying the scent of another woman's perfume and the lingering smell of alcohol. Julian Sterling leaned against the bedroom doorframe, surveying the room that was almost emptied, with only a few packed boxes left. His brow tightly furrowed, he looked at me as if I were an expensive toy that had suddenly malfunctioned. "Elara, have you had enough of your tantrum?" His tone carried his usual impatience and control. I didn't look at him and continued to check if the suitcase was locked properly. "I'm not making a fuss." My voice was very calm, so calm that even I was surprised. He came over and grabbed my wrist, his grip so strong it felt like he wanted to crush my bones. "Not making a fuss? Then what are you doing? Running away from home?" He sneered. "Where do you think you can go?" I finally lifted my eyes to look at him, staring straight into those eyes that were always cold and deep. 14 years have passed, and I have clung to him like a parasite, living in his shadow. "Julian," I said each word clearly, "either marry me or break up." He seemed to have heard the biggest joke in the world, shook off my hand, and laughed scornfully. "Marriage? Elara, have you forgotten your identity?" His gaze scraped over me like a knife. "A stepdaughter who survives only by my mother's charity and by climbing into my bed. Do you deserve it?" "Yes, I forgot. How could I forget? I am his mother, Mrs. Sterling, the baggage brought in by the second husband. That cowardly man, when I was 15, jumped from the top floor of the Sterling Group building due to a failed investment, leaving me and my not-so-old mother dependent on others. Mrs. Sterling's gaze upon me has never held warmth, like looking at an old piece of furniture stained with dirt. And her son, Julian Sterling, is even worse. He treated me like a toy that required no responsibility, beautiful, obedient, summoned at will and discarded just as easily. When he was in a good mood, he would give me some material rewards. When he was in a bad mood, he would humiliate me with the harshest words, or simply push me onto his so-called friends as a bargaining chip in some kind of deal. I was even arranged into a political marriage by him, with an old man who could bring great benefits to the Sterling Group. On the night before the wedding, I mustered all my courage and means to climb into Julian's bed. That was the only way I could think of to escape that nightmare. The price was to become completely his possession from then on, with no freedom whatsoever. Memory surged like a tide, carrying a chilling, bone-deep cold. "So, your choice is to break up?" Julian squinted, scrutinizing me as if assessing my resolve. After a few seconds, he suddenly smiled, with a cruel certainty. "Break up?" He leaned close to me, warm breath on my face, but his words were cold. "Elara, in your dreams, I have a better idea." He straightened up, leisurely adjusted his cuffs, and tossed out his terms like throwing a bone. "Have a child for me, as a surrogate. When the child is born, I will give you a large sum of money, and you can go wherever you want. Of course," he added, a cruel smile curling at the corner of his mouth, "if you behave well enough, you can also stay by my side as my mistress." At that moment, something inside me completely shattered, along with the last shred of any lingering illusion I might have had about him. It turns out that in his eyes, even my qualification to be his mistress had to be exchanged with my womb. I actually once yearned for so-called status and feelings from a man like this. "Julian," I heard my own voice, unusually clear, "what if I am pregnant?" I took a test report out of my bag and handed it to him. That was 3 months ago, when I had the test after unexpectedly becoming pregnant. At that time, holding on to a faint hope, I told him, but he just coldly threw me a card and told me to deal with it myself. He said his child could not be born to a woman of my status. Now, I take out this old test report just to see his reaction. Julian Sterling's expression indeed changed. He snatched the test report, his eyes dark and fierce as he stared at the date and results on it. "When did this happen?" His voice was as cold as ice. "Does it matter?" I retorted. He suddenly looked up, his eyes fierce, as if he wanted to devour someone. "Elara, I warned you." He suddenly raised his hand, and I instinctively closed my eyes. The expected slap never came. He just crushed the test report into a ball and slammed it onto the ground. "Hit it," he ordered, his tone leaving no room for doubt. "I've already made an appointment with the best doctor. I'll go tomorrow." He took out his phone, seemingly to confirm some information. Just so happens, I'm going to accompany Sophia for her wedding photo shoot tomorrow, so I don't have time to deal with you. Sophia, the woman he truly holds dear in his heart, the one he's ready to marry, of impeccable family background, elegant and poised, the perfect wife candidate who can bring support to him and the Sterling Group. I took a deep breath, swallowing the lump in my throat. I was nothing more than a trouble he needed to get rid of before his marriage. He didn't even bother to look at me again, turned around, and slammed the door as he left. The loud slam of the door echoed through the empty room, making my eardrums ache. I slowly crouched down, picked up the crumpled test report on the floor, and unfolded it bit by bit. Looking at the date above, I laughed at myself bitterly. It turns out, I should have given up long ago. The phone screen lit up. It was a message from Julian Sterling. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. St. Mary's Hospital, Dr. Evans will be waiting for you. Don't try any tricks. I expressionlessly selected and deleted it. Then, I dialed his mother's number. Mrs. Sterling, it's me, Elara. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end. Then her usual cold and condescending voice came through. Have you come to terms with it? Yes. I tried to keep my voice calm. I agree to leave Julian. Please make the arrangements. Good of you to be sensible. Mrs. Sterling's tone was laced with undisguised contempt. The plane is ready. Private tarmac. Taking off in an hour. Someone will take you to the airport. Remember your place. Elara, stop fantasizing about things that don't belong to you. She paused, her voice growing even more bitter. Just like your suicidal worthless father. Someone who can never make it. I clenched my phone tightly, my nails digging deep into my palm. Thank you, Mrs. Sterling. I hung up the phone without letting her hear the slightest tremor in my voice. Take a deep breath, and then another deep breath. It's okay, Elara. All of this will soon come to an end. I looked at him and suddenly found it all very laughable. Just then, the phone rang again. It was Chloe, a woman much like me, navigating the circles of the wealthy, trying to gain some advantage. The difference is, she is more daring than I am, and she has even fewer boundaries. Oh, Elara, congratulations. Finally out of the misery? Chloe's voice carried its usual sharpness and schadenfreude. I heard that Julian Sterling is going to marry Sophia. Your secret lover can finally be exposed to the light. I said nothing, just listened to her babbling on over there. But honestly, you've made it through, leaving Julian, taking the breakup money he gave you, and marrying a decent man. Isn't that better than living in fear with him? Unlike me, I still have to juggle between these men. She shifted her tone, with a hint of pride. You know, I recently got involved with a young painter, talented and especially, well, exciting. I can imagine the pride and distortion on her face at this moment. To maintain a glamorous life, she clings to one man after another, while simultaneously looking down on women like herself. By the way, Chloe suddenly seemed to remember something. I heard you're pregnant? That Julian's mother is really ruthless. She doesn't even want her own grandson. But maybe that's for the best. Saves you trouble later. Chloe's tone became somewhat subtle. Honestly, Elara, that pregnancy slot of yours, could you sell it to me? You know, my sponsor is getting old and wants a child, but his wife is very strict. If you could give me that spot, the price is negotiable. She actually wants to buy my pregnancy indicator? Chloe, my voice turned cold. I have already had a miscarriage. It happened 3 months ago. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. Oh, is that so? Chloe's tone sounded a bit disappointed, but she quickly returned to that sharp and sarcastic manner. Makes sense. Someone like you doesn't deserve to have Julian's child. I've heard it long ago. Last time you were pregnant, his mother talked to him, saying you're just a broken doll. Once she's tired of playing, she should be thrown away, and the child definitely can't be kept. Julian was there at the time too, but he said nothing. It turns out that in their eyes, mother and son, I don't even count as a person, just a broken doll that can be discarded at will. Even the flesh and blood in my womb is something that can be easily erased. My heart feels as if it is being tightly gripped by an invisible hand, aching so much that I can hardly breathe. Chloe, I interrupted her. Is there anything else? If not, I'm hanging up. Hey, don't be so quick, Chloe hurriedly said. Next month is Julian and Sophia's wedding. Will you come? Although your position is awkward, you've been with Julian for so many years, he should at least send you an invitation, right? I still need a bridesmaid here. If you're free, Why not come be my bridesmaid? Her tone was full of malice and provocation. She wanted me to attend the wedding of my ex-boyfriend and his new love, and even be the bridesmaid for his former rival? What an immense humiliation. I'm not going, I refused coldly. Huh, not going? Chloe laughed sharply. What? Afraid of seeing Julian and Sophia being lovey-dovey and getting upset? Or are you afraid of seeing him sleeping with your bridesmaid? It's meaningless. Chloe's voice was filled with malicious delight. Just a reminder, don't take yourself too seriously. Elara, you mean nothing to Julian. If he can sleep with you, of course he can sleep with others. The bridesmaid? Huh. Maybe he's even slept with Sophia's bridesmaid. Everyone in the circle knows about your little affair with him. You're nothing but a toy everyone can have. Beep. I hung up the phone immediately and blocked her number. My chest heaved violently, anger and humiliation nearly drowning me. A paywall could be set here. Readers will be curious about how Elara leaves completely, and Julian's reaction upon learning the truth. The money from selling all my assets was enough for me to live a lavish life in any major city, but I did not. I used a small portion of it to rent a modest top-floor apartment in a quiet old neighborhood of the city. The apartment comes with a terrace that offers a view of the distant, hazy city skyline. I put a lot of thought into decorating this small space. Off-white walls, a soft linen sofa, and a lush monstera plant placed in the corner. A few brightly colored abstract paintings hang on the wall. I found them at a weekend market. Everything is arranged according to the vague impression of home that briefly existed in my childhood memories. Warm, cozy, and full of the everyday life's warmth. I also went to a pet store and bought a chihuahua. It is small, a bit neurotic, but its eyes are very clear. I named it Jules. Yes, a nickname for Julian, with a hint of an indescribable dark humor. It seemed that only in this way could that man be completely trampled underfoot, turned into a harmless pet name. The new life was as calm as a stagnant pool, until Jules fell ill. The little guy was vomiting and having diarrhea, lying listlessly in his nest, looking extremely pitiful. Flustered, I hurriedly grabbed it and rushed downstairs, intending to find the nearest veterinary hospital. Just as I reached the stairwell, I bumped into someone. Watch out, a deep, pleasant male voice sounded. I looked up and saw a tall man. He was wearing a faded old t-shirt stained with paint, with blue stubble on his chin and slightly messy hair. He looked a bit scruffy, but his eyes were bright, carrying a hint of concern. What's wrong with your dog? He asked, seeing Jules, barely alive, in my arms. It seems like it ate something bad, vomiting and having diarrhea. I was so anxious I was about to cry. Don't worry, let me take a look. He reached out, carefully taking Jules in his hands. His fingers were long and strong, yet his movements were very gentle. He carefully examined Jules' condition and then asked me some details about feeding. It's not a big problem. It should be acute gastroenteritis. He looked up, his voice carrying a reassuring strength. I have some pet medicine at home. Come with me. I was momentarily stunned, feeling a bit hesitant. I live upstairs. Noah. He pointed upstairs. Just moved in recently? Let's go. Give it some medicine first, and stabilize it before doing anything else. I followed him upstairs and entered his apartment. His home was completely different from my style, filled with the unruliness of an artist. An easel, paints, sketches scattered on the floor, and a faint smell of turpentine. Noah quickly found the medicine box and skillfully gave Jules the medicine. He held Jules, gently stroking its back with patient and tender movements. Watching him so focused, a certain place in my heart suddenly softened. Just then, probably because the medicine took effect, Jules's stomach rumbled. Then, unexpectedly, a burst of hot liquid sprayed out, directly soaking Noah's pants. The air instantly froze. I was so embarrassed I wished I could crawl into a hole in the ground. I'm sorry. I hurriedly apologized, pulling out a tissue to help him wipe it off. Noah laughed, his voice carrying a helpless kind of sexiness. Looks like it's much better. He looked down at the stain on his pants, then glanced at the innocent face of Jules in his arms. Little guy, quite a temper. He handed Jules back to me. You hold him first, I'll go take care of it. Or, why don't you wash him in my bathroom? I blurted out. I regretted it as soon as the words left my mouth. Inviting a man I barely knew into my bathroom? Noah glanced at me, his eyes somewhat meaningful, but he still nodded. All right, thank you for your trouble. I held Jules and led Noah back to my apartment. The bathroom was small but very clean. Noah took off his dirty pants, revealing smooth, strong calves. He turned on the shower, the water washing over his skin, droplets sliding down the contours of his toned muscles. I stood at the door, feeling a bit uneasy as I looked away, but I couldn't help sneaking another glance. His physique was very good, that kind of beauty, full of strength, that only comes from years of consistent exercise. Your pants, shall I help you dry them? I whispered. Thank you. I threw his pants into the washing machine and set it to the drying mode. The sound of water in the bathroom stopped. Noah came out wrapped in a towel, his hair wet, water droplets sliding down his neck into his collarbone. He looked at me, his eyes somewhat burning. Can you do me another favor? Help me shave my beard. He pointed to his chin. The razor seems to be out of power. I nodded involuntarily. I took out a disposable razor and shaving foam, and had him sit on the toilet lid. The bathroom was very small, and I was almost kneeling in front of him. Our warm breaths mingled, and the atmosphere grew somewhat intimate. I carefully applied the foam to him, then picked up the razor and slowly shaved away his bluish stubble. His skin was hot to the touch, and his jawline was sharp and defined. My fingertips would occasionally brush against his skin unintentionally, sending a subtle shiver through me. My heart suddenly sank. He kept looking at me, his gaze focused and deep, like a whirlpool trying to pull me in. When the last inch of skin became smooth, I lifted my head and met his eyes. Breath stopped at this moment. He leaned in slightly, his burning breath hitting my face. Just then, my phone rang at an inopportune moment. It was Julian Sterling. The sharp ring pierced the ambiguous silence. I could hardly believe my ears. I frowned instinctively, not wanting to answer. Noah reached out, took my phone directly, and pressed the power off button. Then, he lowered his head and kissed me. This kiss carried an irresistible dominance and aggression, instantly igniting the long-suppressed fire within me. All reason collapsed at this moment. I closed my eyes, responding to him. Forget Julian Sterling. Forget the humiliation and disgrace of the past 14 years. I just want to drown in the strange and burning warmth brought by the man before me. He lifted me up horizontally and carried me toward the bedroom. The moonlight outside the window gently spilled onto the floor. Noah's kiss was deep, carrying an almost wild possessiveness. His body was like a burning furnace, completely melting me away. We tangled wildly, demanding from each other, as if trying to blend into each other's very bones and blood. This night was long and scorching. I didn't know who I was, nor where I was. I only know that there is a man named Noah who, with his strong presence, has filled my world. When I woke up, the sky was already bright. So that's how it is. Noah was not by my side. I sat up somewhat dazed, still bearing the traces of last night's madness on my body. The air was filled with the aroma of food. I stepped out of the bedroom and saw Noah tying my apron, busy in the kitchen. The morning light streamed through the window, casting a soft golden edge around him. He was frying eggs with practiced ease. Hearing the noise, he turned around and gave me a smile. Awake? Breakfast will be ready soon. On the table were toasted bread, milk, and a small dish of fruit, simple, yet full of the breath of life. I watched his busy back, and somewhere in my heart, a piece collapsed. Isn't this exactly the kind of home I've always longed for? A warm morning, someone making breakfast for you. No scheming, no transactions, just simple warmth. We didn't speak during the meal, yet the atmosphere wasn't awkward. The sunlight was beautiful, and Jules was rubbing against my feet, wagging his tail. Noah occasionally passed me food, his eyes gentle. Eat more, you're too thin. I lowered my head, hiding the moisture in my eyes. Noah, I whispered. I wanted to say thank you, to say last night was just an accident, to say we shouldn't be like this, but he interrupted me. Elara, he put down his fork and looked at me seriously. I like you. I know we've only known each other for a short time, and last night was sudden. He seemed a bit embarrassed, his ears slightly flushed, but I can feel that you and I are the same kind of person. We are both longing for something real. I don't want just a one-night stand. He looked into my eyes, his tone firm. I want to try, with you. I was a bit incoherent. I don't know. It's okay. He smiled and reached out to cover the back of my hand. You can take your time to think, but I want you to know, I am serious. My breath caught. His hand was very warm, the palm bearing slight calluses. What do you mean? At that moment, I suddenly felt an impulse to hold on to this warmth and never let go. Noah. I looked up, meeting his gaze, my voice trembling ever so slightly. I'm scared. I'm afraid this is just a dream. afraid that when I wake up, everything will return to the way it was. He held my hand tightly, his gaze gentle and resolute. This is not a dream, Elara, I will be here. I looked at him, and tears finally slipped down my cheeks. The grievances, unease, and longing for warmth accumulated over the years surged out at this moment. I threw myself into his arms, holding him tightly. Don't go, please don't leave me, I choked out, like a child clutching at a lifeline. Noah held me tightly, his chin resting on the top of my head. Fool, his voice was low and gentle. What I'm afraid of is you not clinging to me. I buried my face in his chest, feeling his strong heartbeat, drawing warmth from him. Enough, perhaps, this time, I can truly have a home of my own. That's really enough. Sharp and piercing, it shattered the moment of warmth. Noah and I exchanged a glance, both puzzled. Who would come looking for me at this time? Noah patted my back. I'll go answer the door. I gathered my emotions and followed behind him. The door opened, and the person standing outside was Chloe. She was dressed in designer clothes, her makeup exquisite, and when she saw Noah opening the door, she paused for a moment. Then, her gaze passed over Noah and landed on me, her eyes instantly turning playful and disdainful. Yo, Elara, didn't expect this, Chloe said sarcastically. I thought after leaving Julian Sterling, you'd hide away in some cave. Didn't expect you'd find a new sugar daddy so quickly. She sized Noah up and down, her eyes filled with appraisal and disdain. Good eye, this gentleman looks pretty stylish. Noah frowned, standing at the door, showing no intention of letting her in. Who are you looking for? His voice turned cold. I'm looking for Elara. Chloe tried to push her way in. We're close sisters, just catching up. She's not available right now. Noah refused bluntly. Chloe's expression darkened. Inconvenient? I think you've done something shameful. Afraid I'll find out, right? She looked at me with a vicious gaze. Elara, you've really become something. Just after leaving Julian, you're already hooking up with another man. I'm telling you, Julian has almost gone crazy looking for you. My heart tightened. He got drunk last night and drove to find you, but ended up in a car accident. Chloe's voice suddenly rose, filled with a sense of schadenfreude. He's still lying in the hospital now. It's all because of you, you bitch. If anything happens to Julian, I won't let you off. A car accident? Julian Sterling was in a car accident? I feel a bit dazed. That man, so lofty and omnipotent, actually got into a car accident? Was it because he was looking for me? The thought flashed through my mind for just a moment before I suppressed it. It has nothing to do with me. I have already left him. Chloe, I stepped forward, standing in front of Noah, looking at her coldly. Julian and I are no longer connected in any way. Whatever happens to him is none of my business. Please leave. Leave? Chloe sounded as if she had heard a joke. Elara, do you think that by hooking up with a new lover, you can just erase the past? Let me tell you, it's not that easy. She suddenly reached out, trying to push me away as I barged in. Let me see what nice things your new sugar daddy has prepared for you. Noah quickly grabbed me, shielding me behind him. Chloe missed her target and became even more furious and embarrassed. She saw the breakfast on the table that hadn't been cleared away yet, her gaze growing even more venomous. Fine, you two seem to be having a great time. She rushed over like a madwoman and flipped the table over in one sweep. Plates, cups, and food shattered all over the floor with a crashing sound. The breakfast Noah carefully prepared for me instantly turned into a mess. Elara, you ungrateful white-eyed wolf, Chloe screamed, pointing at the tip of my nose. Julian treated you so well. How could you betray him? You're here having fun with that wild man. Have you ever thought about Julian lying in the hospital? You're simply not human. Looking at the mess all over the floor, at Noah's furrowed brows, a surge of anger rose straight to my head. That was the breakfast he had carefully made for me. That was the fragile warmth we had just built. Enough, I shouted sharply. Chloe, get out of here. I looked at the broken pieces on the ground with a heavy heart, even more heartbroken over Noah's hard work. Noah, I turned to him, trying to keep my voice calm. You take Jules back to the room first. Leave this to me. Noah looked at me, then at Chloe who was like a mad dog, and nodded. I'm waiting for you outside the door, he said softly. If she makes a move again, I'll call the police. He picked up the frightened, trembling Jules and walked into the bedroom, closing the door behind him. Only Chloe and I were left in the living room. I looked at her twisted face and the mess scattered all over the floor, feeling a chill in my heart. Julian Sterling's world is such a filthy, chaotic swamp full of malice. And I have finally climbed out.